Right. Hello, everyone. I am Samantha Weisbach. I'm the owner and general manager of Dancewear Center, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Awesome. I'm Annie St. Marie, and I use he, she, and they pronouns.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Annie St. Marie. Do you go by Annie St. Marie fully, or do you ever go by Annie? What do you
Just,
prefer?
yeah, just Annie is good.
Cool. Awesome. So can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your dancing journey?
Yeah, definitely. I started dancing when I was 4, which now is like 26 years ago, so a long time. And I was dancing like at a little community center in like Bitter Lake area in Seattle. And then I moved to the American Dance Institute in Greenwood. And my neighbor that lived across the street from me danced there too. And then he auditioned for PNB. So I was like, if he can do it, so can I. So I ended up getting into PNB when I was, I think, like 8 or 9. And I was there until I was 17. So I studied pretty extensively, like pre-professional ballet. We had some Horton training, which was really nice. I love Horton technique. We did obviously point. I started when I was about 12, and we did variations and we performed in like recitals every year. I was in the Nutcracker for like 8 consecutive years. It was so fun. I loved that. The Stole Sendak version, that's my favorite version. And we also got the opportunity to do like Midsummer Night's Dream as like a little bug. And I also got to do a production. They do like children's ballets that are really short and narrated. And I got to do Pinocchio as Pinocchio when I was like 16, 17. And that was so fun. Like, I always think that bowing at the end of that show, like for the first time, and having like the entirety of McCall Hall like cheering for me was like the highlight of my life at the time for sure. And then training at PNB is really expensive. So when I was 17, my family decided that it was time to let it go and that it was too much money. And I started doing musical theater, which I had always loved. And I did that in high school. And then for my senior year, I was kind of like, I really want to get back into dancing more extensively. So I applied at Cornish College of the Arts here in Seattle and I got accepted. And then part of my like financial aid got taken away because they were like, oh, we reviewed your like financial situation. We think you can afford more than we thought. Yeah, which I was like, I don't know about that. So I ended up having to like drop before this year even started, and I ended up working at Dick's Drive-In and saving like a ton of money. And I ended up reapplying to Cornish like a few years later. And I did their 3-year program because they have like an accelerated program if your grades are good and your technique level is really solid. So I was there for 3 years and I graduated in 2018. And it was so amazing doing like modern and contemporary work there because it was very different than the Horton I had done. And I had just been like such a bunhead too. So it was amazing getting to go there and trying out different things. And I got to do like burlesque for the first time, which was super exciting. Um, yeah. And then just getting out of college, I've been like teaching and performing and taking class like very consistently, honestly, since then. Even through COVID, luckily, I was at a studio that allowed us to like go in and film for teaching classes and stuff. So I still got to take class like in a studio during the pandemic, which was so nice.
That's amazing. You've gotten through quite a journey,
Yes.
an evolution. It's very exciting. Cool. Well, can you share with us a little bit about what your favorite thing about dance is?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Honestly, for me, it's the performing and not just like performing on a stage for an audience. Like every single day, that I come and I take any kind of class, especially ballet. I love to perform, even a tendu. Like you can really just like put on a character and explore what is in a tendu that's like makes me special or different or makes it interesting. So I think that's my favorite part is just like the theatricality of dance.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love that you also are, you know, noting that like it's not just when we're on a stage, like you can perform
Mhm.
at any time. That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, so can you share with us a little bit about how your identity has affected you in the dance world?
Yeah, definitely. So I identify like as non-binary or like honestly as like a femme boy. But obviously like I look pretty feminine or like people assume my pronouns are she her or that I identify as a woman, which not great. And it's been so much better now that I've found like spaces that accept me and are okay with me. I've actually had like a lot of younger students who've come to me that used to go to PNV who were like, I didn't feel accepted. I didn't feel like this was the right place for me. And I totally get that because, especially, I can't say, speak to it now. I'm sure it's a lot more accepting. But at the time, it's these very rigid like gender roles that are played especially in ballet where the girl curtsies, the guy gets to bow, we don't cross that over, which is something in my classes I always do both, like everyone curtsies and everyone bows at the end of class. But it's been nice to be able to find like places that actually can like honor how I feel and how I present and not just go, wow, we're gonna celebrate you by making you like our token queer person, because sometimes it's like that line between, well, wow, look at this person who's different, other than like, oh, you're different and that's cool. We're all different. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty big. Yeah, and kind of along that same vein, what intersections have you found between the LGBTQIA plus and the dance communities?
Yeah. Well, I think especially living in Seattle, I think there is a lot of LGBTQ people in the dance community. Um, in certain places there's so many different little like niches of dance and genres where it's like it kind of depends, but I think especially going to an arts college, I was able to find like a good community of people who are really queer, and I think it just dance is a really good place to like be able to explore your personality and your whatever's happening inside of you. Like it kind of goes back to that like performance aspect and that theatricality. Like you can really dig into yourself and be able to kind of explore like who am I? And I think that kind of just goes hand in hand with people who are in the community where they go, I need to do some little searching here. Who am I? And they find dance and it is really good for them. And like it can be kind of therapeutic in a way. But I mean, I'm definitely still finding myself in circles that I am one of the only queer people. Like I do, um, I'm part of a like cabaret group that does like really classical like showgirl performances. And, at first it's kind of like, well, the women do this and the men do this. But then I recently got to do a number with three other guys where it's from a musical and the song is We Are What We Are. And we had like sparkly dresses on and our hairy legs. And it was really nice. So just kind of finding where that kind of fits in together. And I definitely think a lot of our audience definitely is part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Like just artists are just, I think, maybe almost more willing to like understand and accept themselves too.
Oh, I think that's so true. I love that. Yeah. Um, and then what's something that you want to see change in the dance world, and what are some steps that we can take to move towards that change?
Yeah, I definitely want to see more. I think this just goes out into the world in general, but more just letting go of like those gender roles or um like being able to just really be easily going, hey, I'm Annie and I use he, she, they pronouns. Just like throwing that out there really simple, especially for people who aren't queer. And it's so interesting because I find that children are really good at this. Like I have like a group of like 10-year-olds I was teaching recently, and one of them gifted everyone like these little like squishy dogs or something. And one of them comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, this is Mango and his pronouns are he him." And they're so good at it, right? And then it's the always the adults or the older people who are like, this is really hard for me," which understandable, but I think we can all just like try to slip into it more and find the ease in that. But yeah, it's just all these little moments of not realizing that we're putting these gender roles on things, where I think it's we should be able to like take a step back and like register that and learn from it, and also being able to like call people out on stuff. Like that's something that I find to be valuable but also scary. It's really hard when you hear someone being misgendered and you're like, I want to like stand up for you, but then you're not trying to make anyone feel bad. But yeah, I definitely think we can just be, I mean, dance already is like so like revolutionary, and we should be able to just get in there and rip it apart and be able to just do whatever we want at this point and make it inclusive for everyone.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you feel, and this is kind of along the same vein, so we were talking about steps that we can take, but if somebody who is, if somebody feels the same way as you do, like what advice do you give to them? Like even if they're just struggling with this concept?
Yeah, I think it depends on like your comfort level, because I do know other dancers who also struggle with the do I let people like do I speak up for myself about being misgendered, or do I speak up when someone says, okay, ladies do this, men do that, or okay, you're gonna wear a dress and he's gonna wear pants. I think just having like that bravery to kind of speak up, because it's not going to cause any harm, I don't think, in the long run. Like, yes, it might make people a little uncomfortable, but I think it's important to like make that step, and just sometimes people just don't think about it. So I think those of us that are thinking of it and are aware of it can just bring a voice to it and try to just have that little bit of courage and bravery.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have any resources that you'd like to share with our audience, like things that have helped you? It could be like a website or a community group or an Instagram account, just anything that may have helped you along the way.
Yeah, I can't really think of any in particular right now, but I definitely would say like a tip is just to get yourself like in more rooms, right? Get yourself in more places, say your name in those places, ask people their names, like just get to know as many people as possible. I know that like even just getting on like studio Facebook groups, like I teach at Westlake Dance Center and I'm in their community group, and it's amazing the things that people will just post on there, little opportunities or events, and it just continues to grow and compound off of that. Like, don't be afraid, again, like have that bravery to just like put yourself in a room, and maybe you're not going to know anybody there, but you can meet people there and then find and build these connections with people that actually like feel the same way you do and will be really welcoming for you. Like you can find a community that maybe is not the most comfortable for you, and then who do they know who knows someone else, right? Just keep reaching out. I mean, I'm not even amazing at that yet, but I'm trying to get better at just putting myself in rooms and saying hi to people. It's amazing how like how much that works to get jobs even, and to just like find community and friends. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, I was doing another one of these interviews the other day, and the dancer had shared like, "Oh, I'm not sure if this is really a resource, but find your community." I was like, "No, I think this is like the biggest resource that we have is finding that community." And it is a little bit, you're right, it can be a little like nerve-wracking to put yourself out there, but I do think that the more you do it, the more comfortable it gets, and the like I almost feel like it snowballs and you start to find your people, which is so important.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. Well, great. Lastly, we want to know what's coming up for you in the near future. Are you teaching classes? Are you performing? Where can we follow you?
Yes, definitely. So I've got quite a few things. So I do teach a contemporary ballet class because I love to mix the technique with that again, like kind of that theatricality. I teach that every Saturday at Westlake Dance Center in Shoreline. And that is really in all levels. It's super open to just like, again, exploring like, who am I? What am I trying to say? Or what does my body need today? Like, I love that class with my whole heart. It's so wonderful. That's like my child, basically, is my contemporary ballet class. And then I will be teaching a couple like master classes throughout the summer for that as well, just for people who can't make Saturdays work. So I'll be figuring that out soon. And then I am performing next week in the Seattle International Dance Festival with a contemporary jazz company I'm part of, Coalescence. Um, the owner is, or the like artistic director is Brittany Parker. I met her at Westlake. She teaches there as well. And then in September, the kind of cabaret group I was talking about has a production. It's called A Night in Paris. It is the most fabulous show I have ever seen or been a part of. That is in September. I can't remember the exact dates, but it's in Leavenworth, which is really exciting. Yeah, I actually like get to sort of tour something for the first time. And that show again, like, is so amazing. There's jazz, there's the can we do like really sultry stuff, there's a tango, there's a ballet duet, there's a song that's like really serious French people smoking and the song is like fart sounds. It's ridiculous. So that's literally the best show I've ever seen. I It's funny because I've always wanted to like make my Instagram public, but I keep it private because there's always just like so many weird people out there. So it's like I've been like moving through this like trying to decide if I make a dance one or if I just like open it up. But people can always follow me on Instagram. It's my name, Annie St. Marie, but it took me a long time to realize that it spells out Anniest Marie because there's a period in my name. So everybody just thinks it's Anniest Marie, which is fine. That's great. But yeah, I think that's kind of all the stuff I've got going on now. And in the fall, I'll be teaching some adult intermediate ballet and a basic, maybe modern, maybe ballet at Exit Space, where I teach as well.
That is fabulous. Well, we will go ahead and grab links from you for everything, and
Yeah.
then that'll be down in the description so everybody can find that. But thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing. I so appreciate your time and your openness.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. All right, everybody, we will see you next time.